We just completed our 4th year off grid and it looks completely different than what you'd imagine. I feel like it's easy for people to wonder what it might be like to sell everything, move to the country, and live off the land with their family and friends, but that's exactly what we did 4 years ago. Let's go back to last fall for a complete year of what living off grid actually looks like.
At the start of our 4th year, we were in the middle of the bookshelf project in our tiny home. We had built the structure, the doors had been delivered to our house, and we were ready to paint. We made a video documenting the entire build process, so you can watch that video if you want to see more details, like our hidden TV and the paint color. We started our first fire of the season during this time, and we're racing the weather to complete a bunch of projects we wanted to do. But starting the 4th year off with completing a project like the bookshelves was very satisfying. It was time to plant our garlic, and we decided to plant enough for us to have for an entire year, plus some to be able to plant again the next year. We started building an addition onto our tiny home because we were going to build a bathroom inside. We didn't have a lot of time to work on this, and we ended up only doing the floor and then moving on to more pressing matters. Because we live off grid, we heat with wood, and because we have a tiny wood stove, we have to cut our firewood into smaller pieces. This is just the beginning of this chore. We decided to host a super small Thanksgiving in our tiny home, and because we are a little nuts, we also decided that we needed to complete the kitchen cabinets. We had the doors ready to go, but there was still a lot of work to be done on the bases. Even though we live in a tiny home and our kitchen is smaller than in most homes, we had a surprising amount of doors to paint, and it took us much longer than we had hoped. We were able to install most of the doors and half the drawer fronts before Thanksgiving, and we were still installing them the day before. At the same time we were doing this project, I was doing a lot of Thanksgiving prep because we have a tiny stove to work with, and I was making everything gluten-free, which meant that everything had to be made 100% from scratch. We had a lot of fun setting up the table for the meal and turning our bookshelf bench into a seating area. We contemplated if there was a way for us to always have this seating area, but ultimately the table takes up way too much space in the tiny home. We took a big break after Thanksgiving because we were worn out from the back-to-back fall projects and then hosting Thanksgiving. When we were ready, we got back to getting prepared for winter. We decided to install a water filtration system and a separate faucet for cooking and drinking water. We had previously been filling up our Berkey every week, and dragging it from the pantry to the sink and back to the pantry again was a tedious task. This project made life simpler. We have a problem with our batteries freezing in the coldest parts of winter, and we've always intended on building something where we can enclose them and heat them. So what we decided to do was build a platform and insulate it really good so that they are not coming into contact with the floor of the shed because it is not insulated. And this actually has worked really well. Our batteries never froze in the past year. Our first freeze was really late, but it was on the horizon, so it was time to get everything on the land ready. This means draining the water lines on our pool, the bathhouse, and the laundry room. We also had a ton of green tomatoes, so we picked those to ripen inside. By this time, we were fully into fire season. For the most part, in December and January, we have to light a fire or keep one going every single day. This means stacking wood inside our house and on our porch that is ready to be put in the wood stove. We had grown corn for flour and harvested a few ears, so we wanted to try our hand at grounding our own corn in order to make tortillas with that. To complete our pantry, I needed to build 2 drawers to install to make everything more organized. We originally had an assortment of baskets to store everything in, and it would get messy so quickly. These drawers made everything so much neater. Are those frozen? Try again. We spent some time changing the alternator in our truck, and much to our surprise, we actually completed the task and the truck was working again. Basically, there's like just fell off of the gorilla cart. It's gonna be dinner. Even though it was the middle of winter, we still had to do homestead chores and keep everything going off grid. This is also the time when we need to run the generator to charge our batteries, as we aren't getting as much solar energy from the sun. Unfortunately, we had a lot of ice at this time, and Casey slipped and fell and hurt her leg and ankle. Weeks later, she found out that she had actually broken her leg. We just didn't know it at the time. I made a paste of comfrey for her ankle, and we set up a pop-up shower in the middle of our living room since she couldn't walk to the shower outside. You need to wet your hair and scrub your body and then rinse. Since it was the beginning of the year, we had been thinking about what we wanted to complete in the coming year. And we had lists everywhere of things that we wanted to complete, so we decided to put it together on one big long to-do list. And I don't think we really thought we could get through it in a year, but it was nice to lay it all out to say this is everything that we want to get done at this moment. Every time it snows, our solar panels get covered, which means we aren't collecting any solar power. This time there was also a layer of ice underneath, so I had to get the snow off and let the sun melt the rest, which actually happened pretty quickly. We had a bunch of peaches in the freezer that we wanted to clear out to make sure we still had room in the freezers for other things. We decided it was time to make peach jam because we had been out of that for a while. We definitely made enough to last a couple years, and we canned it to be able to store it on the shelf at room temperature. Our chickens eat out of an automatic feeder, and because we had new chicks that were growing up, they had never used it before, and it was on an unlevel surface, so it's actually pretty hard to use, especially if you don't know how to use it. So I had to build a platform to make sure that it was really level and set it on the training mode so that they could learn how to use it. When I think back on the last year, I don't feel like we've accomplished so much, but I have to remind myself that maintaining our land and all the buildings on it and repairing things is just as important as building new things. I think we spent more time this year than any other year repairing broken things. All this time our pantry has been with outdoors, even though we had painted them already. We couldn't take it anymore and finally installed the rest of the doors in the whole kitchen, and what a difference that made. It started to warm up a little bit outside, even though it was still very much winter. But I decided I wanted to start working on turning the high tunnel into our greenhouse. And the first step of that was building the doors. Our high tunnel was installed by Farmer's Friend, and we are adding on a solid front to that. We wanted it to look cottagey and be kind of like the centerpiece of the rest of our garden. This is where we will start seeds and grow things that could benefit from being in the greenhouse.
Sleeping on that top shelf, spirits on the floor, breaking all my promises, and I don't know what for. We've had some long days, but you know that
we bought 4 used IBC totes in order to collect rainwater off of the greenhouse. This day it was going to be raining at night, and we really wanted to start collecting as soon as possible, so I decided to install that system on this day. I think a theme of this past year would be night plumbing. I can't tell you how many times I was plumbing something in the dark this year, just because that's how long the project took, or it was the time when I could do it, / it starts getting darker earlier and you just don't have as much daylight to do everything you want to do.
There's been so many nights that you saved me from the wrong side of town. There's been too many times I let you down. There's been so many days I was waking up with no one to call. Now I'm lost to the road.
Because spring was on the horizon, it was time to start our first seeds, and I decided to make a wooden tray out of cedar wood so that we could use our soil blocker. Right now we are starting onions.
With all the projects we've been working on and with the holidays around the corner, dinner easily becomes an afterthought. That is why I've been relying on Hungry Root. Hungry Root is a smart grocery and recipe delivery service that actually learns what you like. You start with a quick quiz, and their smart cart fills your order with recipes and groceries tailored to your taste and health goals, whether you're gluten-free, high protein, or just trying to eat a little better. There are over 50,000 chef-crafted recipes, many ready in 15 minutes or less. And the ingredients are high quality with no artificial sweeteners or preservatives. I love these Kevin's pre-prepared meats. For lunch, we were having honey garlic beef, and I'm gonna add this packet of seasoned jasmine rice. It's been such a relief having meals show up at my door this time of year. I don't have to think about what's for dinner, and it saves me time when life gets hectic. It's really good. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off of your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Click the link below or go to hungryroot.com and use code HeyWanderer. That's 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life at hungryroot.com, code HeyWanderer.
We spent a lot of time picking out the color for the greenhouse. Ultimately, we wanted it to sort of blend in with its surroundings in the summer and be a really nice color when all the leaves are gone in the winter. We are super happy with this color, so much so that we used it on another building later on in the year. And in the fall, it was stunning. We haven't done a lot of work on the bedroom, but we knew that we wanted to make our own duvet covers, and we had these sheets that we had purchased for that for a while and decided it was finally time to do that. So we sewed 2 matching duvet covers out of 2 sheets that we picked out, and it was actually a pretty simple project. We used the snaps that we use for the dog bandanas, and it made it super easy, and I think it turned out great. We decided to close in our outdoor kitchen area because we really needed another storage area for building materials and such. So we just closed that in with greenhouse plastic. And it has held up really well, actually, even though it doesn't look that nice, it's very functional. Our onions had sprouted and it was time to start more seeds, which means spring is coming fast. Our garden had been taken over by dandelions. We kind of let them go last year just because we were overwhelmed with other projects, and it really shows this spring. Casey made it her mission this year to get rid of all of those, and to this day she is still picking dandelions, but there are far less of them. We had to take down some cattle panels from last year and take out T-posts, and over the next couple of months you will see this garden transform. At this time, the peaches started blooming, which was exciting but also scary because you're hoping that it doesn't freeze again. But we're moving on to building something else for the greenhouse. I had an idea to put 2 long tables right down the middle of the greenhouse so we could start seeds and store things in it. And if for whatever reason we needed to use these tables, we would have them and they would be portable somewhat. They are heavy, but you could move them. And then we have a plan of having 2 long garden beds on either side. There's already one on one side, but we still need to do the other one. So I designed it so you could sit at the table, but also store stuff underneath it. We had planted some spinach seeds and kale seeds the fall before, and those were growing plants, which was really exciting because it was still winter. And with those first ones, we used some strawberries that we had frozen from the year before, and made a nice smoothie. And then it became time to really start seeds. I think we were starting seeds every week at this time, and we had a lot of things going on in the greenhouse. Because we had all those plants going in the greenhouse, it was time to install a water pump so that we could use the water that was being collected on the greenhouse and use it to water the seedlings and the plants in that garden bed. So I just wired a simple water pump to a portable power station. And because I did that, we were also able to plug lights in. Middle-ish, yeah. More night plumbing. This is a monumental moment because we have not had a good watering situation for plants ever, honestly. Wait. No. Oh, yes, girl. Ready? Okay, maybe I should put the right thing on. Wow! That's so much easier. We moved back to doing some projects that needed to go into the house because it was a little chaotic in there and we just needed to have a little more organization. We started out by taking the wood that was milled from our land and planing that down to make it look really nice. This is white oak, and we are turning it into a shelf that you can also hang things on. And before we hung that up, Casey had to patch the wall and silicone all the beadboard and paint the wall. And I also put trim up because we didn't have trim on the door yet. And just that made a huge difference because it just looked so unfinished before. But when we got to hang the shelf up, it was next level. Because we want this little area to be a place where people can actually sit if necessary, like if we have an extra guest or you just need to put your shoes on, we wanted to have a cushion so that it is comfortable. This is actually a curtain that I bought for the fabric. It was really cheap. I didn't know it was for this project at the time, but it looks really good in this area. At this time, we were in full force of seed planting and things blooming. The tulips were out, things were growing in the greenhouse. Our garlic had come up, and even though it was far from being ready, we still could use some of the green garlic, especially where there were too many in one hole. And at this time, we also were getting so many eggs.
Doesn't get any fresher than that.
Thank you for your egg.
It was time to plant the onions out, and we also had a bunch of pansies that we put into the ground. This was so exciting because we grew the onions from seeds. I feel like onions are not hard, but they take so long, and so when you finally get to put them in the ground, it's really exciting, and they just look like little pieces of grass. Then we moved back into the house. We wanted to really get the kitchen finished, and we really hated this corner where the fridge was because everything was so white, and we wanted to add some warmth, some color, just some more personality. So we started with painting the trim on both the windows yellow. We didn't get that color just right at the beginning.
Followed the sun into the desert because I thought
And then we wallpapered our fridge, which turned out to be one of our most controversial decisions, but we love it and it's still like that.
so I'll go home.
And after a lot of research and trips to the hardware store, we finally got the color that we were wanting. It was way more muted, but still really nice. And for the window above the sink, I designed this little design to go on each face of the trim. We cut it out with the Cricut and then rubbed it on, and it just came off. It's a vinyl cutout, and I think it looks really good and was a lot easier / faster, because if we had done that by hand, it would have taken forever. We installed a pot rack on the side of the fridge cabinet because we have some big pots that don't fit over the stove. And then we installed some handles on that cabinet, and that corner was done. We started working on this bed right in the front of our garden. This is the thing we first see when we walk out from the house. In the years past, this garden bed has been pretty disappointing, and we decided this year that we wanted it to look really pretty because it's the first thing you see when you come outside. It's the first thing anyone sees when they pull up to our house, and we just wanted something landscaped looking rather than like market garden looking. So we started that project with a big plan in place of where each flower that we had was going. This is a newer part of our garden. I mean, it's always been there, but most years it has been covered in grass and weeds, even if we've planted things over there. In half of this garden the year before, we had dug out pathways and had the beds be raised, and that worked really well for drainage. So we decided to do it on the rest of the garden. It's really hard work building up garden beds like this. We're putting wood chips in the pathways in hopes to keep weeds down. This actually works really well. It doesn't keep everything out, but between the wood chips and the paper that we put down, we are able to keep those weeds down. I don't think we will have to do that forever. It's just what we have to do right now because the grasses are trying to take over. Over the winter, our water heater in the bathroom broke because it got so cold, and even though we drained it, there must have still been some water in there somehow. So it was time to replace that so we could shower at home again. The strawberries started coming back. They were smaller this year, but we're gonna take care of that later on. And these strawberries in this bed in the middle are so red and very delicious. We decided that we needed a section for all of our green stalks to go because they had kind of been sprinkled all over the land. Our land is not even close to being level, so we have to level each green stalk. So we thought, let's put them all together on one platform so we can water them all together and they'll all be really level, because that is very important for green stalks. We mixed all of the colors that we had because I didn't want there just to be stripes of these different colors. So I thought if we mix them, then they would all look similar, like they were supposed to be, all these different colors. And we really liked the way that this turned out. We filled them up as we were stacking them and immediately planted beans because we wanted to can a lot of green beans this year. In the spring, there's a long time when we don't need a fire anymore, and we also don't need the air conditioner. So on the days that it gets warmer, we open up all the windows, and sometimes we'll open the door up if we really need it, but then the bugs come in. So I convinced Casey that we needed a screen door, and I told her that I would try to build it because I feel like it would blend in more. I feel like some screen doors just don't look that nice. So I painted it the color that the door already is. I think this was a great move. We have used this a lot. It is annoying when you don't need it, but I'm glad we have it. While I was doing that, Casey was working on the Japanese maple garden. We had a lot of plants that needed to be planted, and it really needed to be mulched. We had been planting stuff for a few years over here, but it really didn't look like a garden at all until this year. We laid paper down everywhere because this is just weed city, and then put the wood chips down, and this actually worked really well. We had to go through and pick out some weeds throughout the year, and we did miss some, but it still looks really nice because we did a really thick layer of mulch. We installed this tiny little pond because we love having a water feature in the middle of our garden, and we have a little solar fountain to put in here. Our cherry trees gave us cherries this year, which was really surprising to us because this is only the second year that we've had them. But they were delicious. We made some maraschino cherries that were the best we've ever had in our lives, and we actually still have some in the refrigerator right now. The plants that we planted around the pond grew so fast, and this little space was such a treat. Even the frogs loved it. And just like that, it's time to start picking bugs off of our vegetable plants. The front garden was already bursting. Things had grown so quickly, and we decided that we needed some kind of border so that we could weed eat right up against the garden but not hit the plants. So we just put landscape timbers down, and it really defined the area. This is the first half of that garden I was talking about, and we had to add some amendments in there, but we are planting a bunch of popcorn here. We also planted sweet corn, but what I'm most excited about is the popcorn. The beans are already ready, and we are harvesting them as soon as they come in because we have a lot of canning we want to do. With a quick check of the garlic, we realize that they are ready to be picked now. We're actually getting a lot of spring vegetables to take out of the garden at this time. Because we were swimming in eggs, we decided that we were going to freeze them. This actually turned out to be a really good thing. We don't love cooking eggs and then freezing it and reheating it, but raw eggs, defrosting, and then heating them up tastes basically just like a fresh egg. And then we moved into canning our green beans. Casey harvested all of the garlic, and we had so much garlic to deal with. We also had some overgrown zucchinis, and we will do something with that in a moment. I decided to try natural dyeing. I had these black walnuts soaking for over a year, and I dyed some fabric. It was a fun process, but the fabric turned out a lot lighter than I wanted to, so I ended up dyeing it again. And then it looked a little more like what I was going for. Where we planted the popcorn, things started to come up, which was exciting, but we still hadn't dealt with the rows, so we were trying to fill in the pathways so that we didn't have to deal with the weeds there. And those big zucchinis we shredded and froze for future recipes. The flowers were finally blooming so much, and it was kind of like the peak time for flower arranging. So I made a pretty big bouquet for our tiny home. The blackberries were coming in. This is the biggest blackberry we had all year. It was huge. And we decided we wanted to make a drink with it. So we took some blackberries and lavender from the garden and some green tea and made a little milk tea. These were delicious. And just like that, the corn is growing like crazy. We've been living in our tiny home with bad lighting forever. So I decided I was ready to install these lights in the kitchen. We had a family of raccoons that were getting into our cat house, and I caught one of them in the act, and it opened their latch right in front of me. So we had to install a new latch there. Then we were on hornworm duty like crazy. We were out there every night with the black light, picking them off. They were eating the tomatoes in the greenhouse like crazy. Luckily, the plants were huge, but we found so many and we fed them to the chickens.
1 pound, 9.3 ounces.
Wow, so over 1.5 pounds.
Velvet on.
Our pantry hasn't had handles at all, and we actually had a plan for different handles, but we decided to go with these knobs. And at first we were both kind of skeptical and then weren't sure if we liked them, but in the end we were just happy to have something to open the pantry with, and I think we both like them now.
It's just a memory, an undercurrent feeling.
I was walking outside today and I was looking at our garden and kind of noticing every project that we have done throughout the years. And it made me realize that everything we are doing here off-grid is a marathon, not a race. And I know that's a cheesy saying that people say, but they say it because it's true. You'll see us do one part of the garden and then move on to something else, and that's just how it is. Sometimes finishing the garden isn't the priority at the time, but when you can get one thing done, that's still moving in the right direction. It's still progress. That's something that we have to remind ourselves of a lot, because when we don't finish projects right away, I think we kind of beat ourselves up, and ultimately that just isn't realistic. We can't finish projects at an inhuman speed and still live our life and enjoy it. This back wall behind the couch had not been painted. It's the only wall in this whole room that hadn't been wood filled and silicone and painted. So we did that, which was really nice. This door sticks out because it needs its own painting and treatment, but we're not doing that right now. But we were able to hang up some cute decorations and it made the living room look really nice. My brother came into town, and although we didn't do projects every day, he did say he would help us one of the days. We decided to work on building this deck onto the sew shack at that time.
We have an entire video about the whole sew shack build that you can go watch. That's live on our channel right now.
It was a lot of fun to host somebody, and we even cooked over the fire because it was starting to cool off a tiny bit. It was still kind of warm, but the food was delicious. My brother made a steak and we used the garlic from our garden and got to eat outside, and it was really nice. Right after that, we were gonna have another visitor, which was Casey's mom. And we had just a few sweet corns that came out of the garden. The rest of them got eaten by critters. And we decided to make some ice cream with it. So I made the base the day before we were actually going to be eating it. We had recently made some elderberry jelly from elderberries that were growing wild on our property, and that is an amazing jelly, but we decided to use it to make a cocktail because we didn't have any wine on hand to serve with the dinner that we were going to be making, so we thought this would be a nice substitute.
Oh.
It's good.
That's good.
It definitely doesn't taste like wine, but this is a elderberry margarita and it was delicious. We decided to cook over the fire again. This time we made some ribs that were from our pigs and again used the garlic to make some roasted potatoes. It was delicious and it was finally time to try the corn ice cream.
It's very soft. That's good.
It's so crazy. Like, it tastes like corn because it's corn ice cream. But it's like if cream corn wasn't ice cream.
Yeah. But then the elderberry's got like a tartness to it.
And just
So
like a
good.
little more sweetness. Very good.
It's very good.
We decided to get into more car projects, and that was changing the brakes on Casey's new to her car. At first we thought we were just changing the brake pads, but we ended up changing the rotors also. That was a long, dramatic process, and we have a whole video about it if you want to see that. At this point, we had made it to October, which is when we first moved here onto this land. And if you've been here for this past year, we want to thank you so much for watching our videos. Your comments and likes and views are what make it possible for us to keep making these videos, and we are so grateful for that. Thank you so much for watching.